For my trade deadline losers, let's get into it. The Phoenix Suns. This is a team that's 500 right now. Well, they won their last game in overtime against the Utah Jazz. Even without Beal, even without Kevin Durant, with Devin Booker and the roster constructed, you should have blown out the Jazz. But this game went into overtime. Amazingly. This Phoenix Suns team, it's a toxic locker room right now. Kevin Durant, the Suns were looking at trade offers for him. They were desperate to get Jimmy Butler. They didn't get him. And then Kevin Durant, you're openly, shopping him and not communicating to him that he is up for a trade, and they're looking for trade partners for him. So when you don't trade him, you bring him back, and you hear talks about the Golden State Warriors are interested in bringing him back for a reunion, and then they're calling him, Steph Curry, all these players for the Warriors are calling him, and he didn't know he was even in discussions to be traded. He's somebody that wants to stay with the Suns. The Suns wanted, him to retire a Sun, creating this locker room dysfunction already on top of what's going on with, Bradley Beal, that situation. It's just bad for business. This is a team that also, out of the 10 most expensive players in the league, they have 3 of them. And just, the Bradley Beal situations, it's hilarious. He said he preferred to go to a team with, a team in a hot area where it's warm, and none of those teams are interested. Miami didn't want his ass. Other, contending teams didn't want his ass. So it puts his team in a bad position moving forward. Like, you have 3 of the 10 most expensive players in the league all on the same team, and you really have no margin of error to get better. You traded Nurkic away to the Hornets, but you had to give up a first-round pick to get, rid of Nurkic and get him off your roster. You got Cody Martin, decent player, but he can't shoot. Decent defender, but he can't shoot. He's an offensive liability, so that doesn't really help you too much. So the Suns team's pretty much cooked. I don't see them. They're the 9th seed in the West right now, but there's a very good chance that they don't get into the play-in because the Spurs got De'Aaron Fox. They're going to be better. Golden State just got Jimmy Butler. They're going to be better. They're all competing to make the play-in. The Sacramento Kings, they made a lot of moves. They should be more competitive. So, the margin of error is getting less in the West, and this is all competing to get into the play-in. 3 teams I already said that could have a better shot to get in the play-in than the Suns. And that's not guaranteeing you a playoff spot. That's guaranteeing you going against either, the Minnesota Timberwolves or the Dallas Mavericks to get into the playoffs. So I don't think the Suns will make it into the playoffs. At the very least, I can guarantee that they're not going to make the playoffs. So this team, the dysfunction they created with, this trade deadline, failing on that, and with, how their roster's constructed, it's making for a very interesting offseason. The Phoenix Suns might have to trade everybody, except for Bradley Beal, of course. He's probably going to stay with the Phoenix Suns. But you look at some landing spots, Golden State obviously wanted Kevin Durant. That didn't work because Kevin Durant didn't want to go back to the Warriors. But you look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, that's a destination I think is a good spot. They were a team that was, engaging in some, talks with the Suns to get Kevin Durant. And I think Anthony Edwards with Kevin Durant, that's a perfect duo in my mind, especially Kevin Durant. Seems like he's going to be able to play elite for at least 2 more seasons. He's looking like he's not lost a step. So I think him with Anthony Edwards, Naz Reid probably still, Rob Dillingham, hopefully you can keep him. Shannon looks really good. Maybe I don't know what a deal looks like, but they're probably going to want some young pieces in that mix. So maybe you do have to give up a Dillingham or Shannon Jr., Julius Randle in that deal to make the money work. But I definitely think Kevin Durant and Anthony Edwards, if you could put that duo together, the rest will make sense. That's just a really good combination. You look at how Anthony Edwards is playing this year and how he played in the postseason. He's averaging 27 points per game. He's having a couple 40-point bomb performances. He's shooting 42% from 3 too. So he's elevating himself as a scorer, getting better and better. And he's such a young player. Kevin Durant is his idol too. So they have a great relationship. I think those two as teammates would be fantastic, and that would be a duo that you could see having success in the West, because these duos are forming in the West. Luka and LeBron James, Wemby and De'Aaron Fox. Like, you got to have a really good duo to have success in the West. Kyrie and AD, but I think Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant, that's a duo I really want to see get together. Devin Booker said no matter what happens, trades, all that stuff, he would want to stay in Phoenix, but I think sending him to Houston. You could get Cam Whitmore, you could get Reed Shepherd, get some young pieces to restart this thing. I think that's the best move. I know Devin Booker's a really good player for the Suns, but with how this team is constructed, Devin Booker is not going to want to sit through a rebuild. He's going to want to contend. He's 28. He's not going to want to get into his 30s still in a rebuild. So I think sending him to Houston is a really good move. Houston, that's the type of destination. I think that would be the favorite destination for him, the best landing spot for him. Going over there with a Men Thompson. You could probably get a Men Thompson in that deal. Maybe. You're looking at a Reed Shepherd. You're looking at a Cam Whitmore, and you're looking at getting your picks back from the Rockets. I think they positioned it perfectly to get Kevin Durant or Devin Booker. But yeah, Devin Booker's a perfect fit. Next to Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith, Sengun, Jalen Green. Like that's a really good team. That's just a star away, in my opinion, from making some real noise. That's a spot Devin Booker could go and win. They're defensively, they're really good. They're just missing that elite score, missing that number one guy. And I think Devin Booker could be a number one option on the championship team. That championship team is the right pieces around him. I think that could work. Ime Udoka is a really good head coach. What he's done with this Rockets team, how they are defensively, I think that's a dangerous team with Devin Booker at the helm. Suns need to rethink this roster and what they're going to do with it, because they have 30 games to let the season play out, but this is a team that's fighting to be 500. They're fighting to be average. And with, Kevin Durant getting shopped, this is a huge disrespect to him and how good he is. At least have those communications, at least have those talks with him and let him know what's going on, not keeping him in the loop. So yeah, every media reporter, is the local media, people on ESPN are saying it's a very toxic locker room, toxic environment in Phoenix. So I expect things to get even worse. With them, they fall out of the play-in. They get into the bottom of the West, especially having to go to overtime with Utah. That shit can't happen. So Suns need to blow it up in the offseason. The Utah Jazz, it confused me why Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, John Collins, even Walker Kessler, he's a good young player. I understand keeping him on the roster, but some of these older guys, they should have been traded. They should have been traded for some capital. And Danny Ainge out here getting fleeced, getting put in deals that is sending Luka to the Lakers, AD to the Mavs, like not even knowing what's going on in the deal until 30 minutes before the shit happens. So they're in the wrong side of things, what they should be doing. Lauri Markkanen, great player, young player, having a down year this year. Colin Sexton, his value is really high. John Collins, the year he's having, if you're going to move him, if you want him a part of the future, fine. But if you're going to move these guys, this deadline was the time to move them. So really a head scratcher why they didn't make some moves. Them in Brooklyn, they're just holding on to their assets. Cam Johnson should have been traded. Ben Simmons, they're going to do a buyout with him. They agreed to that. There's some assets on their team that they could have made a move for and got a good return in. They should have been like Washington and the Hornets, what they were doing. Selling, getting some picks, building for the future, tanking for Cooper Flag. So really don't understand why Brooklyn or Utah didn't make any moves. The Atlanta Hawks, they're selling, but the problem is they don't have control over their pick in 2025. A victory last night, but this is a team that's lost 9 of the last 10 games before this game that they just won. Trae Young, things could get interesting for him in the offseason. Reports are coming out saying his situation could get murky. He could be somebody that requests a trade, and you can't really blame him. This team has failed to put a consistent quality team around him. They had one playoff run. He took them to the Eastern Conference Finals. This is a guy that showed up big. When it's time in the playoffs against the Knicks, he always finds a way to beat them. The Knick killer. He has shown up in the biggest moments when the Hawks need him. He's been a high-quality player. He's averaging 10 assists, 20 points. Should have been an all-star this year, but with how the Hawks are, it's not a good basketball team, so he got snubbed. They just traded DeAndre Hunter away to the Cavs. Somebody, one of his teammates that's a good player too, having a career year. And they're keeping Clint Capella, though. So some of the decisions the Hawks are making, very much backwards. Getting Terrence Mann on your roster, somebody that's on a contract that's a long-term contract, just signed a 3-year deal. It's a bad contract too, by the way. He's having a bad year with the Clippers. Got traded for a reason. In and out of rotations. It's a bunch of head-scratcher moves from the Hawks. They're going to be terrible these last 30 games of the season. That pick's going to be really high. gift wrapped it to the Spurs. They're going to have a top 7 pick with the future they have in San Antonio with the moves that they made. They're positioned perfectly thanks to the Hawks. So it's just another loss year for Trae Young and the Hawks, unfortunately. And he's wasting his career in Atlanta. Things were supposed to be better with Quentin Snyder. They really haven't. Things haven't changed too much. So this is a guy that I definitely think trade rumors will heat up in the offseason, and I would not be surprised if he's moved. I think Minnesota makes sense. Him with Anthony Edwards, nice little duo. Him in Orlando would be nice too with Franz, with Paolo Banchero. They could get a nice return from Orlando. Definitely think that's a team that should be the favorite landing spot for him, but Trae Young deserves to be on a contender. He deserves to be somewhere better. He's riding his career away in Atlanta. Too good of a player to be on a team that's just fighting every season to be 500 and just average. So it's not a good look. Trae Young deserves better. Really want to see him get somewhere else. I really would have liked him in LA before the Luka deal, but Trae Young, definitely think he's somebody that will be on a different team in the offseason. Some people thought the NFC North was going to be the worst division in football this season. They thought it was going to be as bad as the NFC South.